Hey everyone, this is Jewelyn. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to my finally long-awaited Florida plant haul. So it's been well over a week since I came back from Miami, Florida, and I went out there for 3 days to film for the channels. I don't know which videos are going to go up first, if this plant haul is going to come up first or my vlogs for travel with Jewelyn, so we'll see. But in today's video, I finally have a moment before heading out to Chinese New Year's dinner with my grandma. We're going to Chinatown here in Los Angeles. I finally have a moment to sit down and share with you the plants from my very fun plant haul in Florida. And I came back in the middle of the night and I went straight into vending. So I took a red eye and I will share the behind the scenes of what it's like to buy plants and travel with them across of North America, because it was a very long commute for me. I think I had to take 2 flights and it took me 10 hours commuting, traveling back with them. And for the most part, all but one of them I think did really well. Unfortunately, I'll share with you when I share the plant haul which plant took a beating from being transported, but I'm pretty much happy with the rest of the plants, so I don't want to go too hard on myself. But that was definitely a stress factor about buying plants from somewhere far away and traveling with them, and not just one plant but multiple plants. And I hope this inspires you to maybe go out and check out the nurseries in different parts of wherever you're traveling, and if you're able to shop and bring them back. I know if you're a crazy plant person, that is definitely something that you put into your itinerary if you're going on a day trip or going on a holiday vacation. So that was really fun for me. I haven't been in Florida for a handful of years, and when I last was in Florida, I went there to basically eat and not plant shop. And I didn't have a drone back then, so it was really fun to both do dancing, eating, and doing plant life and filming with the drone and vlogging. So it's a very fun 3 days in Miami, and I would love to go back sometime before the year ends to plant shop, eat, and dance, because Miami has everything that I love. Since I came back, I took a red eye and I went straight into a vending weekend, and I was not able to do a planting with Jewelyn or plant haul right away. So there's a few plants that I just put in temporary housing, and I'm not going to show the planters because they may or may not be in this setup when I do the actual planting with Jewelyn, and I plan on doing that first thing tomorrow morning as soon as I get myself together, and then we're going to film the patio plant haul right after that. So there's some really fun episodes coming up. The first plant that I want to talk about, and maybe I'll talk about the 2 plants that I repurchased and the reasons why I decided to repurchase them from somewhere far away, and then we'll go into the more interesting plants that I've never had in the collection. The first plant that I repurchased is my Banto Sensation Sansevieria, and this is, believe it or not, I think the second time that I've repurchased this plant. And unfortunately, the first one did not make it, and I already know the reason why. It was because it was living in the patio and it was not happy with the weather conditions, with a lot of rain coming through the patio every now and then. That can just ruin the whole Sansevieria collection, and it has happened to me before. But now, moving forward, anything that is variegated in color when it comes to Sansevierias will stay indoors, because my Sansevierias that are variegated in the Las Vegas collective is thriving and living its best Sansevieria life. But the ones that are living in the patio that are variegated were not happy. So therefore, this Banto Sensation will not live outside in the patio. It will either live in Las Vegas perhaps, and I think that's where it's probably gonna live, so we'll see. But I will definitely plant this up in the next planting with Jewelyn. So this was a repurchase for me in Florida because the cost of the plant, I think, was slightly cheaper than if I would come across it in California. So that's something to think about. And this actually traveled in my carry-on suitcase that I ended up checking through, because I had a whole carry-on bag full of plants, and it made it perfectly fine. I'm not that mad at the condition of it traveling in a suitcase. Another repurchased plant is another Sansevieria, the Sansevieria Samurai, and I purchased this plant originally many years ago in Las Vegas, and unfortunately years ago with the heavy rain in my patio, it never made it. So this was a Sansevieria that I always wanted to repurchase in my collection but never came across of it again, and I was able to come across maybe 2 or 3 I believe, and I could not pass up on adding this back into the collection. So this is my repurchase Samurai Sansevieria. I collect Sansevierias, so this was definitely something I had to think about when figuring out my real estate for my carry-on and narrow down what type of plants I wanted to bring back. And obviously, you know, deciding how I was going to bring them back was also another issue. Sansevierias were packed and wrapped, and it was stored in between my clothes in my carry-on suitcase, and they made it through as check-in luggage. So everything else that I'm about to show you right now was hand carried by me in a grocery bag. So I think what I'm going to talk about are Hoyas next. Very fun purchase for me, the Hoya Retusa. It's in a temporary housing, so I'm not going to lift it up because I may or may not keep it in this planter. But the Hoya Retusa is a plant that I've seen probably in the San Diego area, if anything. I don't know if I've seen it here in Los Angeles area, definitely not in Las Vegas. Because I'm a Hoya collector, I definitely wanted to add this one into my Florida plant haul, because I have to tell you, and if you haven't watched the Come With Me's for Florida, Florida has a huge Hoya selection. I mean, for a Hoya collector, I was really like to the point where there was so many Hoyas that I could not like narrow it down to just a few. I really wanted to have them all. So that's something to think about when I want to go back to Florida, is like picking up more Aroids and Hoyas. I think that's definitely like worth flying across the country for. So Hoya Retusa, in some parts of the world this may or may not be common for you. For me, I think it's more of an uncommon Hoya compared to like a tricolor, or maybe, I don't know, I want to say like a Hoya compacta nowadays. You can really find it, and if anything, they're being sold for really small propagated babies, nothing like my mother plant. So very fun to add another Hoya in the collection, the Retusa. And this was very like small. The root ball isn't big at all when it comes to Hoyas, so I was able to have it compact, really small. And you'll see in the behind the scenes, which I will post up after this plant haul video, how I was able to get it really compact to fit in my carry-on. So very fun Hoya to add to the collection, and we'll see if I keep it in this planter or not when I do planting with Jewelyn tomorrow for all of these plants. So here's another Hoya, and I don't have the ID on hand with me, so I'll have to put it up here on the screen while I edit. And I fell in love with this Hoya because of the hardiness of the leaf. I don't think, like, besides my Hoya obovata, like big round chunky leaves, I think this is the only type of Hoya foliage that I have that's shaped like this size besides the Hoya obovata. So I naturally gravitated towards this. I mean, compared to the Retusa, as you see, you can see the difference between both Hoyas. I really love the chunkiness of this Hoya, and I have it in temporary housing. I may or may not keep it in this planter, so it'll be fun to see what I decide when I put up my hair tomorrow and throw on an apron and set them up before I go to Las Vegas for 10 days. And I am traveling for 2 weeks after that, so I want to make sure I set up these plants before I go. But they've been sitting in their temporary housing for well over a week. I think they're acclimated to Santa Monica, and a lot of them, you'll see in a second, are also living in my bathroom where there's a lot of humidity. But this has been outside in my patio with the Hoya Retusa doing really fine. But comment down below if you have this Hoya. I could not pass up on it. I'm a huge Hoya collector, so those were the 2 Hoyas. Out of all the Hoyas that I came across, I ended up picking these 2, and hopefully they'll be okay with me and the Santa Monica climate and environment. So very fun to add more to the collection. Here's another fun one. I finally got a ZZ Raven. I actually don't even have a regular ZZ because it's so common. Maybe I should get one. Maybe it'll be nice to add to the Las Vegas collection because they're very low maintenance plants, so maybe I might invest in that. I decided to get the ZZ Raven in Florida because I don't really see it in Los Angeles for sale, and the last time I seen this in a retail space, it was spotted for me in the Bay Area. If you guys remember me doing pop-ups there, and I did some plant shopping, and the ZZ Raven was going for well over $100 this size, which I can kind of see it like being super expensive for the rarity of it. But I know in different parts of the world this is a common plant, and I'm sure a lot of you have the ZZ Raven in your collection because it's common and fairly inexpensive. But for me, in my part of the world, I consider this a rare plant, so I had to like not pass up on it. It was the only one that I came across during my time in Florida, and I'm pretty like not mad at the condition of it. This was the largest plant in height and width, and even the amount of weight it was for me to carry. This was the plant. It's the most heaviest, largest, and lengthwise and widthwise from all the plants in today's haul. So it was very stressful for me because this top section kind of was sticking out of my grocery bag carry-on. So I think I did pretty good the way how I did the transitioning of flying with it. You'll see it behind the scenes. I'll give it one more spin, and I think the planter that it's in temporarily may probably end up being its forever home, because it looks pretty good. So I'm happy about having a big variety of planters to be able to choose from when I came home in the middle of the morning. And there's a lot of new growth here too, which I'll try to show you on this end. So we have some new growth here popping up a few places here. So there's some growth here, and then in this section here we have more sections here that is growing. So hopefully the ZZ Raven will not give me any issues. It's a very low maintenance plant from what I hear for a regular ZZ, but the Raven, I imagine it be the same. So this will just live in my Santa Monica studio, and I may get a regular green one for the Las Vegas collective. That'd be interesting to put in, since this is super common for me, the regular ZZ, and I've never purchased it from all of my years in plant life. But comment down below if you have the ZZ Raven. Is it a common or rare plant in your part of the world? Let's talk about the plant that got the most damage or ruin from this transit, and this is my Monstera Peru. I had a cutting from a subscriber. It never made it, and this plant I have never come across in my part of the world. So when I seen it for sale amongst all those other rare leafy plants, I could not pass up on it. But because of the delicate trails and the way how it was in my carry-on and not protected by any kind of barrier besides wrapped brown paper, this really got damaged. And you'll see here this section, so I'm gonna have to prune this off. But I want to see what the length of this is, because I have not taken it off of this U-shaped bamboo pole. So I imagine it's very long, but I don't want to ruin the trails. But it'll like give me some time to think overnight how I want to style the plant when it comes to planting with Jewelyn tomorrow, and the setup that I want it in. But I'm not a fan of sticking up my plants like this. If anything, I rather see them on like a moss or coco coir pole, and if anything, trailing, you know, from like a basket or something. But I'm not a fan of this U-shaped situation, and I can see I don't want to ruin what's going on here. So let's see here. Let's be quick and gentle. I want to see actually how long this trail is. This was the most stressful thing for me to hand carry, because the rest of my plants and having it in a bag that didn't have structure was not easy to travel with. So let's get it off of this, and I want to see what's going on with the trail here. So bye-bye to this. Make sure that the roots is back under its mixture. Okay, let's take a look at the condition of this plant. So I don't like this. Hopefully I can get it to a place where I can somehow not have it like this. So this is what it looks like off of that U-shaped bamboo pole. So I think now that I see it unraveled, I probably will unfortunately have to probably clip here and probably clip here, and I will do that in the planting with Jewelyn, so I will make my final decisions then. But unfortunately they're just bruised up from the transport, but hopefully I'm able to have this plant thrive with whatever I can do to salvage it. So to be continued, but this is the Monstera Peru. It's very long and traily now that I talk about the 3 rare plants that I got in that gorgeous greenhouse, which I would fly back just for that greenhouse. So in this greenhouse, it was all rare, expensive, humidity loving plants. I was stressed out transporting these 3, and you'll see how I did it in that video that I will share after this. But I finally got me a Philodendron Gloriosum, and it's definitely a very common rare plant for collectors and enthusiasts to add to their collection. I never seen one here in my part of the world that was worth spending and investing in for the size and condition that it was in. So I finally decided to splurge on this plant, this gorgeous philodendron in Florida. And I think it makes it a little bit special too, because Florida is really huge on aroids, philodendrons, sigoniums, which you'll see in a second, and I think it makes it a little bit more special to remember my time. So here is what it looks like, the whole thing, because it's in a nursery planter. The rest is in temporary ceramic or terracottas. So what do you guys think about the Gloriosum? I see a new growth happening here. I don't know what it'll look like because I see a little dent in it from the commute over, but I mean, I did pretty good traveling with this plant. So this has been living in the bathroom, and we'll see what I plant this up in. I may just leave it in this planter and then, you know, let it be. I don't wanna, I think for all 3 plants that I'm about to show you, so this one and the next 2, I probably just might leave in nursery planters because I don't want to stress it out. But finally, I have the Philodendron Gloriosum in my collection. To wrap up today's, I think it may be the most expensive plant haul for the year. We're starting off strong here. So let's start off with this baby here. This is the variegated Burley Marks, a very fun philodendron. I think that I once had a regular Burley Marks variegata, or just I think I once had a Burley Marks. I think I picked it up online, and it was just not a good one, and it didn't last with me for a while. I think it died like immediately after I took it out of its parcel, and I never went searching for another Burley Marks. So when I stepped into the greenhouse and I seen that they had the variegated Burley Marks, I decided to splurge on this plant because of the rarity of it. And I mean, it's so gorgeous, and I don't know if I would buy another Burley Marks online and have it shipped to me. Definitely a variegated one would stress me out, so it was nice to hand pick one. And there's lots of new growth here, and this plant, along with the last plant in today's haul, is living on my toilet and is getting a lot of humidity in the bathroom, so I think it's gonna just live in this setup. Also, if you look in the mixture, there is some moss with, looks like pumice and orchid bark so that's something to take note of. So I don't want to ruin the mix or this whole situation, so it'll probably stay in this nursery planter. Now, to wrap up today's video, I decided to get me a Sigonium Pink Splash. And unfortunately, my Albo Variegata, it did not like me traveling and with the rain, and it was thriving and living its best life. It's actually one of my top 10 plants of 2021. And then at the end of the year, it just died with the weather and me not being around, unfortunately. And I was planning on repurchasing another one in that greenhouse, but I just don't have it in me to buy one yet, another repurchase one, because this just recently happened. So I decided to switch it up and get me a pink splash, because this is also a very uncommon plant. I've never seen a pink splash before in my life in person. So to be able to see it in person and handpick one and bring it back is super special to me. So these are the patterns of the splashes, lots of new growth coming through, and these are going to be living in the bathroom. So that is going to wrap up today's plant haul. I think that is all the plants that I got. I'm not sure. I like randomly ran around the collection to gather them here in the patio to share with you this plant haul. But I don't have time to do a planting with Jewelyn right after this video, because we're gonna head to Chinatown to celebrate Chinese New Year's. But tomorrow morning, which is my last day before heading to Vegas for 10 days of dancing, I'm gonna do a planting with Jewelyn because I want to set them up, and I probably will take the Sansevieria Bento Sensation to Vegas and have it live there, and maybe a few more other plants. So we'll see. So stick around for a planting with Jewelyn. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing my rare Florida plant haul for the beginning of 2022. I'm definitely starting off the plant year strong, and I definitely wanted to give myself a break from my schedule and film content in a different part of the States, and also somewhere that is different for me for plant life. It was very fun to go into nurseries that I've never been to before, that had plants that I've never seen before or was on my wish list and able for me to purchase. For like being in plant life for many years and having hundreds and hundreds of plants, that was like so like it really filled my plant soul, and I was like on a plant high. So I definitely think it was worth it for me to take a trip all the way down to Florida and pick up these beautiful plant babies. So tell me in the comments down below, what was your favorite plant in today's plant haul, because they're all special to me. I love them all equally. Super cool plants to add to the collective, and I'm like looking forward to see how all of these do really for me, because the repurchased Sansevierias, I really hope that they'll thrive. In fact, probably both of them will go to Las Vegas, because I know there's no drama for Sansevierias indoors there, and the rest will live here. So stick around for planting with Jewelyn. If you're new, welcome to the channel. Subscribe for daily uploads between the main channel and the vlog channel. You get a video each and every day, and comment down below if you would love to see me go back to Florida to do more come with me's and more plant shopping in the future, and I would like to do that at least one more time before the year ends. Until next time, aloha from Santa Monica, California. Bye.